So welcome to the Dual Language Immersion Quarterly Update webinar hosted by NCDPI. Today is Tuesday, November 26, 2019, and this is Ivana Mansour-Anderson, one of the ESL Title III consultants and co-lead of the Dual Language team here at DPI, along with Dr. Anne-Marie Gunter.
I am the World Languages Consultant at DPI and the other co-lead on our NCDPI DLI team. We're glad you could join us this afternoon, and we're looking forward to sharing with you several important updates as well as our professional learning topic.
So our agenda for today, after the welcome, we will be talking about DLI across North Carolina, the who, the why, and the where. We'll also discuss some of the upcoming PD, including the NCDLI seminar at the Flank Spring Conference. Finally, we'll give some updates on other state, regional, and national conferences and events that are taking place. And finally, our contact information, and we do encourage you to stay in touch. As always, we like to make sure that you are familiar with the different things that you can work with on your computer. Looking at the audio, will you automatically come in with the audio being on your computer? You also have the option of calling in like we ended up doing today. If you have any trouble with that audio and you happen to have your headphones plugged in, sometimes it's an easy fix just to unplug and replug that audio. The hand icon is our best friend. It's a way for you to let us know that you would like to be unmuted or ask a question or share something with us. And many times we ask you to raise your hand to give us feedback as well. And finally, the question box. The question box and the chat box are a way for you to communicate with us throughout. Anne-Marie will actually be doing much of the talking today, so I will be watching that question box. Sometimes I'll interrupt her if it's pertinent at that moment. Other times we'll try to come together towards the end to answer your questions, and keep your eye on that question box because sometimes we will be typing our answer back to you as well. All right, so we're going to start with our first poll. I can actually get it launched.
We always do like to know what your goals are in joining us today. So, for example, are you a teacher leader sharing information with colleagues? Are you an administrator gathering materials for local presentations? Are you an educator earning a contact hour for licensure renewal? Are you an individual getting a question answered? Or do you want to remain anonymous on a Tuesday afternoon before the Thanksgiving holiday? As you can see, that poll is already up on your screen. All you have to do is click the answers that apply to you, and you can check all that apply.
So we see that a few of you, almost 77% of you have voted. Go ahead and take a few more seconds to get those votes in. About 5 more seconds here. All right, I am going to close the poll, and then let's look at the results. So a whopping 82% of you are here earning contact hours for license renewal. We are glad to be able to assist you in that process. A few of you want to be anonymous. A few more of you are administrators that are gathering materials for your local presentations. That is fantastic. And then a number of you are teachers that are leading or sharing information with your colleagues, teacher leaders, excuse me, that are sharing with your colleagues. So we have a variety of different reasons that people are attending today.
Don't forget, those of you who are here to get licensure renewal, you will get an email receipt after this broadcast, which will have a certificate. Please keep track of that. It will go to the email that you've registered and joined us on. We have it set up to go out 2 hours after the broadcast, so look for it in your email box by tomorrow morning. Also, just a quick note, the webinars in this series earn you a contact hour if you participate in the live broadcast. It is a 1-hour webinar, so you earn 1 contact hour or 0.1 CEUs. That's why you need to keep track of the receipts and add those up. Also, you may need to get approval from your district or charter school to count this. And in addition, this is part of an academic subject renewal, so for either English as a second language or world languages. Also, one following note, we have had some changes with our go-to system, and as I said, you do need to participate in the live broadcast to get the credit. If you are not able to do that, we will post all of these materials so that you can do local presentations and give local credit through that. In addition, we know that in order to get the credit, you must participate in the webinar. So you must have the screen up in front of you and be participating in polls and things like that. If you are on a call-in only and do not have the screen in front of you, your participation cannot be documented because you cannot fully participate. So please make sure you understand those things going forward. In addition, as we said, we will post all these materials, and we try to post them within 1 week. That's our sort of 1 week guarantee. We often get them posted earlier, although that may not be relevant this time because if you're going on your Thanksgiving holiday, you may not be accessing the materials until after you get back. But know that they're always there for you, and they are on the professional development page of the DLI Google site. All right, let's go ahead and dive into our professional learning topic for today's broadcast, which is DLI across North Carolina, the who, the why, and the where. This is something that we're often asked to share and give updates on, and so we wanted to spend some time exploring who is in North Carolina's DLI programs, why or what are the benefits of being in a program like that, and where are these programs located across the state. So our expected outcomes for this section are first to understand the DLI terms used across North Carolina, because if we're going to talk about who is in our programs and who we're serving as students, we need to make sure we're all using the same vocabulary. Also, we want to describe the impact of DLI on student achievement in particular, because we know that's one of the things that people look at quite a bit when they think about starting or expanding a DLI program. And finally, we want you to know how to use the NCDPI program directory, the materials that are made from it, and all the information on it, so that you can network with each other and grow your own work on DLI within your school or your district or across our state. So those are our 3 goals for today's professional learning focus. Let's jump in with the who. Who do DLI programs serve? And I want you to pause a moment and think about that from your own context and then from a different perspective than your own. I'll pause just a moment while you get that in mind. The answer, according to us, is DLI programs serve all students. It's important that we think about how we provide access and opportunity for DLI programs to all of our students, whoever they are, however old they are, what schools they're in, that kind of thing. And we particularly want to talk about when we say all, and all means all, obviously, but who are our student groups and how are we serving them? So when we talk about DLI programs and who's in them and what's happening, we want to make sure we're all using the same terminology. We're going to talk about program definitions in relation to types of immersion, as well as types of programs, which may kind of seem like the same thing, but are 2 different things, particularly on the statewide directory and in the terminology we use to describe our programs to various stakeholders. This information, by the way, is posted on the website at the bit.ly link you see here, bit.ly/NCDLI directory. It's also under the Resources tab. And I say that because we've included slides in this deck that you could use in your own presentations, but we're actually going to go live to the website to show you where this is at. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that bit.ly link and take you right out to the website so you can see that. You may remember that this website is relatively new. We had been using a wiki space prior to 2019, and then Wikispaces went out of business as a company. Oh well, we moved on, and now we have a Google site. As you can see here, our Google site was brand new. It was first released in early February of this year, so we have had some changes, and it's matured a little bit, if you will. This is our NCDPI program directory. I'm going to highlight real quickly up at the top the Resources tab. The tabs you see up at the top, the Home, the Contact Us, the Standards, the Resources, the Professional Development, and the Policy tabs are the same tabs on all of the Google sites here in Standards, Curriculum, and Instruction. So you'll see that on a regular basis. However, I want to point out some things here, including the fact that under the Resources tab is our NCDPI program directory. So if I click on that, it's just going to refresh our page for us. As we scroll down, we're going to take a look first at the DLI programs, type of immersion, and program model definitions, just like we said. First of all, we want to clarify when we say types of immersion, what types of immersion are available in North Carolina and available anywhere. There's really only two. There's one-way immersion and there's two-way immersion, as you can see. In one-way immersion, students who are in the DLI program are mostly monolingual speakers. Typically, that means mostly native speakers of English, and they're being immersed in the DLI program language. They might also be in a one-way immersion program if they're mostly speakers of the DLI program language. We have a couple of one-way immersion programs in North Carolina that actually serve primarily native Spanish speakers, but again, they're in one way because they're being immersed in both languages. A two-way program is very different from that because students enrolled in a two-way immersion program are actually a combination of native speakers of English and native speakers of the DLI program language. In North Carolina, two-way programs are mostly Spanish DLI programs. So they have about 50% of their students who are native English speakers and about 50% who are native Spanish speakers. We do have a couple of programs that look at Chinese in a two-way immersion setting, but like I said, mostly they're in Spanish. And that's true for the rest of the country as well. Now, it's important that we determine, what type of immersion program you have, because when you think about your own immersion program in your school or in your district, you are the ones telling us which type of immersion program you have to go on the DLI program directory. You know your students. You know if they're a mix of speakers of both languages or if they're primarily speakers of one language. So that's the first thing we decide on immersion programs and the type of immersion. After that, we also determine what type of program you're offering, either in one way or in two way. It applies equally. So under types of programs, this gets to look at things like how much time is spent in the language or how a program is particularly structured. Now, these are in alphabetical order, as you might have guessed, but let's kind of look through these and kind of talk about which are the most popular by what we have here in North Carolina. Also, we wanted to point out that all the definitions we're talking about today are from Languages and Children Making the Match, which is a book that's had several editions. I think it's now in its 5th edition. It's by Helena Curtin and Carolyn Dahlberg. So if you ever have a question about where we got our definitions we use in North Carolina, it's this book. All right, I'm going to start by pointing out the full immersion because that is the most popular type of program, particularly in elementary DLI programs here in North Carolina. So in full immersion, students are actually in an environment where the DLI program language is used exclusively or for the majority of the day. You'll probably hear percentages with the DLI program language in English like 90-10, 80-20, 70-30, because again, for the majority of the day in full immersion, students are in the DLI program language. Content is delivered in the DLI program language, specifically math, science, social studies, or however they've structured their schedule. And then English language arts is typically introduced around grade 2, although there's some variation on that. Next up, for the most popular, particularly amongst elementary programs, is partial immersion. And this is obviously similar to full immersion, but in partial immersion, students are in an environment where the DLI program language is used for some portion of the instructional time that's less than half of the day. Partial immersion often happens as students get into the upper elementary grades, like 4th and 5th grade, and certainly into secondary level, although we have a slightly different terminology we use for secondary programs. So full immersion and partial immersion are the most common types of programs in North Carolina for elementary. When we move into secondary, the most popular one is called continuing immersion, and that's specifically designed to look at continuing a DLI program from the elementary level into the secondary level, either middle school and junior high or high school. Courses are delivered in English or the DLI program language, depending on scheduling and other factors. And those who worked at the secondary level, like I have, know the schedule is the driver of many things in those schools. And so sometimes our continuing immersion programs are actually only continuing with language development. So if a student's been in a Spanish DLI program in elementary, learning content in the language as well as the language itself as language arts, They may only be able to continue in middle school and high school with their language development as they take, for example, high school credit courses at the middle school and then advance into high school and do advanced courses like a level 3, a level 4, AP courses, and so on. There are, of course, secondary programs that also have in their continuing immersion content continuation. The most popular one we see in North Carolina is continuing in social studies or in science, although there are variations on that, and sometimes we do in fact have people offering other content in the DLI program language at the secondary level, like arts education. Finally, there are a few types of programs here that we only use rarely in North Carolina. Again, we're a local control state, so it's up to you to tell us what your DLI program consists of. We do have a couple of developmental bilingual programs. These are one-way programs, one-way immersion programs, and they're specifically designed for English learners to develop their English proficiency, as well as to maintain and improve their native or heritage language skills. And so they would be one way in that they would be mostly learners of English, and so mostly native speakers of the language like Spanish. We also have one Indigenous Immersion program, and that is a Cherokee DLI program in the very western part of the state, and this is designed for language and cultural revitalization in Indigenous communities. Most of you are familiar, I think, with our Cherokee community, the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, and their Cherokee DLI program. So those are the types of immersion and types of programs and the definitions we use. It's important to know that because when we go onto the directory, that is going to be very prominent. So I'll pop back to our slides here for just a moment. And as promised, I do have slides that you can use in your local presentations about the things we just looked at in case you can't get out to the website. But I also want us to look at the NCDLI programs as they appear in that Google spreadsheet that is, in fact, our NCDLI program directory. We get a lot of questions about this, and we make sure to update it annually and then on an ongoing basis so that we can only use this to network and learn more about DLI across the state. So, one of the things I would ask you to think about is, what details are available in the NCDLI programs directory? We're going to take a look. But I want you to consider that, again, this is a Google spreadsheet, and there's a lot of information. So we'll jump out to that. And you'll notice we went right back to the page that is our NCDLI program directory, and you see the pieces here from the slide. Obviously, there's an overview of the directory, and it says if you have questions about a DLI program's admission policies, attendance zone, programming, structure, anything like that, you can contact the coordinator or the principal of the program using this directory. You can also click either on the Google spreadsheet, this link here to it on the right-hand side, or just click on the map, which is divided into the 8 economic prosperity zones that North Carolina is categorized in. All right, the Google spreadsheet comes up. There's a lot to see there. And one of the things I would tell you is that if you were thinking about, how much information is on here, there's actually almost 20 categories on here, which is a lot. Obviously, what you're seeing here as we look is first things organized by their education district, so those 8 zones I talked about. Then the name of the district, the charter school, or the independent school. We have the LEA code, those of you who are familiar with that. The administrator's name, and by administrators we mean the person, the individual, or people from that particular DLI program that are considered administrators. So if you had a question about where the program is located, who's in charge, how are they structured, this is who you'd call. So you have that person's name, and our DLI programs can have more than one person, but they have to have at least one. You have their title, you have their email address, and their phone number. Following that, we have a whole section on the DLI program, starting with the school name, of course. Then we have the school level. Is it an elementary, a middle school, or a high school program, or is it something else? Is it perhaps K-8 or K-12? We have the DLI program language as a category, so you can sort through that. The type of immersion, one-way or two-way immersion like we just talked about. The type of program, and you can see partial immersion, full immersion, developmental bilingual, they're all there. The year of launch is what's in column M, and that's important because if you're searching for example, an established program like one you're expanding to, let's say you're expanding to your middle school, you might want to know not only what other middle schools are out there, but how long they've been around and what kind of experience they have. Followed by that, we have a note about whether or not that particular program was involved in any research, like the television color studies. We have a column for designations. So if we have a DLI school that has been recognized as, for example, a Global Ready School or an International Spanish Academy or anything like that, we have that noted. And then we have the principal's name, the principal's email address, and the school website. So you can literally find almost anything about the school by using this or by contacting the administrator or the principal with more questions. It's a lot to digest, but I hope you recognize, too, that since it's a Google spreadsheet, you can also download it, a copy for yourself, and then just sift through the information the way you need to. So there's a lot of flexibility there in how you can use this resource. Just a minute as we slide on back to our slide. All right, so that's the who and kind of how you find out who's involved and to what degree and in what type of program in North Carolina. So I'm going to pause here while you're collecting your thoughts and ask you, which NCDLI web pages have a link to the NCDLI program directory? And you may be thinking, well, that's a quick trick question, you just showed it. But what we've tried to do on the website is to build in some duplication. So we showed you how to go directly to the directory. We even have a bit.ly link, a shortened URL for it. But where else do you think the NCDLI program directory is linked on the web pages on the website? So we'll go ahead and launch that poll. And of course, if you're out there on the website, you can kind of take a look around if you want to use that to answer.
I think it'll take me some time to research. That's great.
Always a good idea.
All right, about 60% of you have voted. Let's take about 15 more seconds. I think I need more wait time. I'll give you a little bit longer. We're at 73%.
All right. We'll give you 5 more seconds, and then we'll reveal the answers, because even though this is check all that applies, there are some correct answers here.
All right. Disclosure and share.
All right. Well, 100% of you got that. The NCDLI program directory is linked on the resources tab. Excellent. You are correct. It is absolutely there. It is also linked to other places. Those of you, 75% of you said it's linked on the home page or landing page are correct. When you go to that home page or landing page, which we'll go to here in a bit, you will see at the bottom you could go directly to the NCDLI program directory. Those of you also, 25% of you, who said it's on the Contact Us page are also correct. It is linked there, just like information about contacting the NCDLI team here at NCDPI is linked. So you are correct with those. At this time, we don't have it linked from the standards page or the professional development page, but that could change in the future, especially if we see a need to, or, for example, if we're featuring it on the professional development page as a link from this broadcast in the archives. All right, thanks so much for sharing that. Let's go ahead and move on.
And before we move on from the directory, Anne-Marie hates it when I do this, but I'm going to do it because she has worked so hard over the years to create this resource for us, to update this resource for us. Yes, we rely on you to get that information to us, but Anne-Marie is the brains behind this and is constantly working to update it. She has informed me that I will be helping from here on out. But I just want to say thank you, because When we're doing presentations across the country, when people are doing research, we hear how valuable this tool is. When people ask us for information, it also saves us time because we're able to send them to this directory, encourage the download, the filtering, and the contacts and the usage. So thank you for helping us keep it updated, but thank you, Anne-Marie, for all the work you do to get it out to the public.
Well, you're very welcome, and it's my pleasure. It is, like Ivana said, a really good reference for all of us. It helps us stay connected, and it really, I think, is a good way to leverage some of the technology tools we have today, because I can tell you, originally when we had this posted on the website, even before the wiki spaces, we used to have them posted either on a page or on PDF documents that you had to download. Of course, when things changed, and they change often, that became quite problematic. So I'm very grateful that we have the Google spreadsheet tools that we have, and that we can share some of the lessons learned, because this directory makes us all easily accessible to each other. And our neighboring states and others have actually copied this as an idea of the ways to network their DLI programs. So it works well for everybody. All right, but let's move on now to the why. The why of DLI programs. Why are DLI programs beneficial? So again, I'm going to pause for a moment. I want you to collect your thoughts on how you would answer this question. Why are DLI programs beneficial? All right, I hope you have an answer in mind. It's about to come up on this screen. So the biggest answer for us as a state has always been because research shows that students in DLI programs have specifically higher academic performance. In fact, we know that they often outperform their peers in traditional programs by 1 grade level or even 2 on standardized tests. We also know that students in DLI programs have greater cognitive development in mental flexibility, creativity, and divergent thinking that will help them throughout their lives. We know that they have high levels of proficiency in the DLI program language and in English. We know that the students have positive cross-cultural attitudes and behaviors, and that they have enhanced career opportunities. These are a lot of benefits for us to consider for our students, but also to know that being bilingual and biliterate will help them throughout their lives. Though we don't have it up here, you may have heard about the recent research that said as people age, being bilingual and biliterate means that their brain gets more of a workout, and so their brain stays more cognitively engaged, and it can actually, being bilingual can actually delay the onset of signs of dementia. So another benefit, although not one we often talk about with our students in K-12. So let's talk more about these benefits and the actual research that we have on the DLI web pages for you. We do have on the DLI website, and I'm just showing you here the regular bit.ly link we have, so NCDLI site will take you to the home page, and again, under the resources tab, we have a lot of information about research. So we'll go out here again. This is our main landing page, and if you just click on resources itself, you'll see that in the middle of the page, we have a whole section just on research about DLI. The first thing you'll see there going down the middle of the page under research is the statement we just shared about the benefits for students in being in a DLI program. We go on then to talk about the Thomas and Collier studies and how they were done in North Carolina as a longitudinal analysis of benefits. And we even have some research posted from our colleagues at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, UNCC, with their recent publications. We do add things from time to time, so look for that there. And if you have any research that you see that you think would be helpful for us here in North Carolina, please let us know so that we could add that on. A couple things here. You can also go directly to the Thomas and Collier research by hitting this link that you see highlighted on the page. And then up at the top, under the Resources tab again, if you don't go to the directory, but you go to the page that's just the Thomas and Collier research, that'll take you to the layout about their information. Once again, we have a statement about their research in general. We have a little bit of discussion about where they come from, George Mason University in Virginia. And then we have the considerable research and links that they've done in North Carolina. They did do a longitudinal study. It lasted over 3 academic or school years, as you can see. They have executive summaries for each year on the left-hand side. They have the full reports for each year in the middle. And then the work that they did in North Carolina is actually an entire chapter in what's called the Red Book that Thomas and Collier wrote, called Dual Language Education for a Transformed World. We have all that linked here for you to use, including the chapter 5 from the Red Book, but also some other things that you may need. One thing we do recommend when people say, well, what's the quick overview of their research, is in fact to go to the executive summaries. All of the executive summaries are good, but we believe the year 3 kind of pulls everything together, so that may be the one to start with. But obviously, if you want more reading, there's the reports and the entire chapter. So there's a lot there. Going back to our slides, you see that we've made you slides to use that look at that research component of the resources page, as well as the Thomas and Collier research page. That's what I want to share with you about DLI research. Now I'm going to ask you, which research have you used to educate or advocate for DLI programs? And this is, again, a check all that apply. Tell us what you're using from this research. And if you have an other that you've used, please go ahead and check the other, and then type your response in the question box about what it is that you've used that you found helpful when it comes to DLI research.
.47% have voted. Please remember, if you choose other, to go ahead and type in the question box so that you can tell us what the other actually is. We're up to 53% of you that have voted. We'd love to get up at least to 75% or 80%, so we'll give you at least 30 more seconds, maybe a little bit longer. All right, about 15 more seconds. All right, last call. All right, I'm going to close the question box, the poll.
So it looks like the majority of you like that overall research statement that we had on the slide and posted on there about the benefits of being in a DLI program for students, starting with higher academic achievement and ending with enhanced career opportunities. It's always good information to have. And you'll notice, by the way, that that statement gets posted a lot in the materials that we post out to the public or share in some way as downloadable informational flyers for people learning more about world languages and dual language immersion programs.
So we did have one other. I don't teach in DLI programs, but I have students who come from elementary and middle school DLI programs every semester. They are from various districts, but do share particular characteristics, so I wanted to learn about the program.
Well, very good.
Yeah, thank you for adding.
Excellent. And notice too, there are about 27% of you said that you use the Thomas and Collier books themselves. About 18% said you use the North Carolina studies from our UNC Charlotte researchers. No one said they've used the Thomas and Collier executive summaries or reports, but I would encourage you to take a look at those if you want. They're usually 2 to 3 pages long. They're sort of a quick summary. And when I've heard about them being used by people, often it's with policymakers or decision makers when it comes to either starting a DLI program or expanding one. So that might be something to think about as a resource that so far is untapped, at least in our group this afternoon. All right, let's go on to the last part of our professional learning focus. Where are DLI programs located in North Carolina? And again, I'll pause and I want you to think, how would you answer this? Where are the DLI programs located in North Carolina? I will tell you, it's hard for us to wait on this because the answer is many places. We have DLI programs in all 8 regions of the state that you saw the map divided into. We have DLI programs in 47 out of our 115 school districts across the state, so that's almost half. We have 6 charter schools in North Carolina with DLI programs, and we'll have 7 charter schools next year because there's 1 charter school working on opening up a new program. We also have 6 independent or private schools in North Carolina that have DLI programs. So they're everywhere. They're also in many settings, and this is important to consider, especially as we think about the K-12 continuation of programs. We have 14 high schools that have DLI programs, 33 middle schools, 134 elementary schools, which is a lot. In addition, 2 intermediate schools, which are usually grades 3 to 5, 5 primary schools, that would be K-2 schools, and 3 preschools, some of them with elementary schools attached. So that's a lot of places. We also have 7 schools that are K-8 schools with DLI programs, and 2 that are K-12 schools, I think in the same building, in fact, that have DLI programs. So that's a lot of variability. That's a lot of schools. As you might guess, there's more elementary because that's where you start your DLI program, but also in most districts, you have multiple elementary schools that feed into a fewer number of middle schools and even high schools. So if you think about those feeder patterns within a district and immersion continuation, that's how things look. So that's pretty incredible. If anyone's doing their math quite quickly, the answer is we have 200 DLI programs in North Carolina as of this school year. So let's take a look at that and how we got here. One of the things that's happened recently when it comes to DLI expansion is the Global Education Task Force report. Some of you may remember this. This was formally approved by our State Board of Education in January of 2013, and it was a 5-year plan to commit to the 5 things you see here. The second one was leading edge language instruction, and part of that was DLI K-12 expansion, where we were going to institute a plan for statewide access to DLI choice opportunities in public education, beginning in elementary and continuing through high school. I'd say we've been pretty successful at that, because as we look at our growth over time, so DLI in North Carolina for 30 years, our first program started in the fall of 1990 in Guilford County Schools, by the way, in case anyone's on the line from that district, and then has expanded as you see here. Notice that the new DLI programs each school year are in kind of a purple color, and then the total overall is the red bar going up. So as you can see, we're building. And we've had quite a bit of growth in the last several years, almost exponential, in fact. It's been kind of surprising, but certainly pleasing when you think about all the students who are now in DLI programs because of this. So take a look at that graph for the moment. Think about your particular DLI program, or maybe one of your programs, and where you fall in that chart. What year did it start, and how are you now contributing to the total DLI programs across the state? All right. One thing that we do with this information that we've just shared with you is we make DLI program materials available on the home page. Each year we take the DLI program directory, we look at things like new programs and all of that, and we put together downloadable flyers about our programs by district, by language, etc. We post them brand new, and I was pleased to tell you that they have been posted for this year, as of yesterday, by the way. So we're going to go out to the website and take a look at that. We're going to go directly out to the website, the main landing page, the home page. And if you've ever been on here before, you know that there's an overview of what DLI programs are. And as you scroll down, one of the first things you come to is our list of DLI programs for the school year. These lists and documents are updated and posted annually in the fall. And as Anna mentioned before about keeping the DLI directory up, we do a call for new information about our DLI programs, usually in August and September, so that we can update this. Right now, we have the new list posted for 2019-2020 by district and by language. I'm just going to click on, and you can either click on the title by district, let's say, or the actual picture of the document. When you do that, it pulls up a PDF of that document, and things are organized so that you can quickly see, in this case by district, alphabetically, the different schools within that district, the DLI program language they use, and their year of launch. Again, some basic information from our DLI directory that can be helpful to you in looking at this. Also notice there's some notes and things like that with those schools, and that information is explained in the footer. So there's an asterisk if it's a new program in 2019-2020, and you know that there are 23 new programs obviously this year. There's an exclamation point if that school is involved in Thomas and Color study, and if they have a designation of some kind that's in brackets. There's also a link to the NCDLI site for more details on all of these handouts. So I'd like for you to pause for a moment, maybe take a look at this one or take a look at the one by language. Make sure that your DLI program is entered correctly on it. One thing that we have struggled with over time is how best to present these. You'll notice that this is a pretty straightforward document with just some basic information from our DLI program directory. One of our challenges is it's gotten longer and longer and longer. And now we're up to 5 pages on most of these documents, which is a long document, but also makes an interesting statement when you hand someone this kind of document. We think people use these when they're trying to inform others about DLI programs. For example, parents who are interested in this, colleagues, some of our peers in other schools where maybe an immersion continuation program is about to track into. A lot of different things you could use them for. So I'll pause for a moment. We'll do a quick check of the question box to see if anybody has any questions about these documents, and then we'll move on.
Nothing so far.
But we always like to get feedback from you. And so we'd like to ask you, which of these downloadable flyers will you, or maybe have you used, to describe, to educate, or advocate for DLI programs? And again, you can check all but apply. You notice that we had the by district and by language posted already. We're kind of questioning whether people use the by grade span or by region, or the other document that was at the bottom of the landing page on the DLI website, which is the Language Diversity in North Carolina document, which looks at our home languages across North Carolina, of which there are over 300 besides English. So take a look and go ahead and respond to that.
All right, we're almost up to 50%. It was a little bit quicker to answer. Give it about 30 more seconds. All right, we're going to close it out.
So it's really good to know that the majority of you, 69%, said you use the by language document. And it is always interesting, especially since we now have 8 languages in North Carolina that we do DLI in, and we could have a 9th or 10th at any time if one of our districts or charter schools decided to add that. I also see over half of you reference the by district listing of our DLI programs, and almost 40% said they like the by grade span. So we will make sure we get the by grade span one posted soon. I didn't see any takers on the by region, and so that may not be one we need to post, but I do see that about a third of you said you like the Language Diversity North Carolina document, so we'll definitely keep that up there and keep the most recent version available. Let's go ahead and show the screen. All right. So that's kind of the end of our professional learning. We hope that you now understand the DLI terms used across North Carolina a little bit more if you didn't have them already, that you can describe the impact of DLI on student achievement as well as the other benefits, and that you know how to use the NCDPI Program Directory materials and information for the uses that you have for them, whatever those uses are. We also encourage you to share with us in the questions box. We are always curious to know, what else do you want to know about our NCDPI programs, and what else do you want to have on the website as a resource? Because our website and everything on it is designed to help you. We want to know what would be most useful about our programs and as resources. So we'll pause for a minute. You can type that into the questions box. We'll also be asking you that in many other ways in follow-ups from this webinar and the things that we do with professional development. All right. Well, it looks like you're thinking about it. I do know that one thing we've heard is that people would like to have some resources for the specific content areas that are taught in the DLI program language. And that, by the way, is something we're looking at very closely. Now that we have sort of an expanded DLI team with our colleagues from other content areas, we are hoping to put some things on the website that would link to each content area and the resources available that you could use in a DLI program.
And that may tie to the question that was typed in the question box. Does it have to be only about languages?
No, obviously in DLI programs we're teaching content through language. So we're teaching math, we're teaching social studies, we're teaching science. And so if there are things that you want to know beyond like resources for those particular content areas of teaching them, because of course we're teaching the standards in those areas just in a language other than English if we're teaching the DLI program language, please let us know. There might be other things that would be very helpful to you.
So we have, I think it would be powerful to have testimonials from students who have participated in the DLI programs posted on the website. Ding, 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 ding.
That is a fantastic idea, and the first thing that comes to my mind is Chatham County Schools started their DLI program some years ago, and they actually had their first graduating class that had the first cohort of their DLI students in the class of 2018. They have that as a podcast. It was on YouTube, and we've shared it in some of the things we do, but I think you're right. It'd be good to have student voices. In that particular situation, the co-valedictorians of the graduating class were both in the DLI program, and they gave a pretty incredible speech about their experience in learning in two languages.
So tracking down Jonathan and Olivia and getting interviews would be fantastic. Resources for new teachers and opportunities to grow as a DL teacher.
All right, and we do have a lot of professional development, but we will think about how we might be able to impact new teachers in particular, and we're going to talk here in a minute about an opportunity coming up that new teachers or teachers of any kind, as well as administrators, would benefit from.
And I think even this archived webinar is a great resource for someone who wants to know more about what's happening with dual language in general in North Carolina.
Well, thanks for sharing that, and please continue to share that information with us as you think about what resources and information you would like to have on the website. I'm noticing our time, so I'm going to keep us rolling forward. We're done with our professional learning focus for the day, but of course we're going to talk about upcoming professional development. I mentioned a moment ago that we have something very focused for our NCDLI educators in North Carolina, and that is our annual NCDLI seminar for administrators and teachers. We've been doing this for several years now, and it's actually part of the FLANC Spring Conference. FLANC is the Foreign Language Association of North Carolina. It is our professional home of DLI and all things world languages in North Carolina. And that, the NCDPI seminar is now part of the FLANC Spring Conference each year. So it will be on Saturday, March 7th at UNC Charlotte. Just so you know, that conference offers the best of FLANC sessions from the fall conference that they have, which also included, by the way, specific DLI sessions and workshops. And like I said, it has the NCDPI seminar sessions specifically for administrators and teachers to enjoy. On Friday, March 6th, As part of the Flank Spring Conference, there'll actually be DLI school site visits in nearby districts, so in the Charlotte area, in various districts around there. So if you're wanting to see a DLI program in action, you can sign up for one of the site visits as part of that conference. Then on Saturday, like I said, there'll be sessions for administrators, there'll be sessions for teachers, and there'll be some combined sessions that would be appropriate for both teachers and administrators in DLI programs. So there we have it, the Best of Flank and DLI on the left-hand side. That's the webpage. Be sure and save the date, Saturday, March 7th at the UNC Charlotte campus. You can check the details on the link there, the flank.org site for the spring conference, as they are posted. And I've been told as of today, registration will open in December for the Flank Spring Conference, including information about how to sign up for the DLI school site visit.
So you heard it here first. Great.
All right, let's move on to our other updates, and I'm going to let Ivana talk for a while.
All right. Some updates on state, regional, and national things that are happening. So some of you may be aware of the book study number 1 with Thomas and Collier. So we talked about the different research that you can find on our website, but also one of the great things we've been able to offer is a facilitator-led book study of this first book, both with the option of having 1 CEU or 2 CEUs. With the 1 CEUs, there was not as much response, such as quizzes and response questions, as there was with the 2 CEU option. We did have synchronous sessions that were on Tuesday afternoons from 4 to 5:30, and you can see there that spanned across October and November, and we even gave people some time off in October for a break. Those synchronous sessions were attended by approximately 50 educators that were involved. Everyone, whether they took 1 CEU or 2 CEUs, were involved in those synchronous sessions together, and we had fantastic conversations. We are in the process of converting this to a self-paced Canvas course that's going to be available not only statewide but nationwide for anyone who would like to pull from it. We did in this book study work very hard to not only look at what's in that particular book, but to look at things that are happening both nationally and in North Carolina that are tied directly to the different chapters throughout the book. So this was the first book in our book study series. The second book, which is the Red Book that Anne-Marie mentioned earlier, we'll begin working on that in February. So coming up very soon, we'll begin working on the Red Book. The projection right now is that we'll follow a similar pattern where we have a facilitator-led version and then turn it into a self-paced course. But we do not stop there. After the Red Book comes the Green Book, and then the Tan Book, and finally the Purple Book. So our goal is to have book studies available on each of these Thomas and Collier books, each one with slightly different information, updated information, focused on different audiences, and we just look forward to having you participate in those book studies. Another exciting piece of news is America's Language Caucus. We are very excited to announce, if you have not already heard, that formally now we have this caucus that has been brought together by Congressman David Price of North Carolina and Congressman Don Young of Arkansas. So this is a bipartisan caucus that has been created in Congress to focus on the need that we have in the United States to enhance our world language competency. So when we look at the needs that we have for our security, the needs that we have for the jobs across the world. So if you can see here that it lists competencies, education, and professions across the United States. So if you go ahead and click. The mission, go ahead and put them out there. The mission, you can see here are 3 different bullets. And I remember, just because I'm often coming from the ESL standpoint going, it's all about world languages. It's all about world languages. Where's the ESL? Where's the dual language? So when you look at the mission, it cuts across all of these different aspects of our world here in dual language, immersion, and with ESL and world languages. So not only do we want to raise awareness, we want to make sure that we have adequate resources. We know that resources are one of the things that we talk about so often that we're in need of, and also improving the access that our students and educators have, not only to world languages, but to the Native American languages and to ESL. So we are very excited. I was at La Cosecha and Marie was at Axel. We both had the opportunity to hear about this either at those conferences or before, and there's a lot of excitement that has been generated in our fields over the caucuses. Anything you'd want to share?
No, we're just waiting to learn more. The caucus has started in the House of Representatives in Congress, and we are hopeful to hear who all has signed on. In addition, we were told by Representative Price's office, as well as JNCL, the Advocates for Languages, that there will probably be an event centered around the American Languages Caucus soon here in North Carolina, because Representative Price, one of the co-sponsors of this, is from this area. So look for information about that soon, hopefully so that you can get involved when we have an event. When the American Languages Report first came out, that ultimately generated this caucus, we actually had an event at a DLI school here in Raleigh, North Carolina, at the Chinese DLI program that was nearby, that Representative Price and others came to.
So very exciting. Some other things to share with you. The National Association of English Learner Program Administrators, formerly the NCDPI, is hosting the annual conference this year. The theme is Connect, Collaborate, and Lead with NCDPI. This is a day and a half, starting with a half day on February 24th and a full day on February 25th, which is concurrent with the pre-conference at Ncbi. So both Ncbi and NCDPI will be in Las Vegas at the Tropicana Hotel. There's information about registering, and there's a draft agenda as well. And so several of the advisory board members for that organization work with dual language immersion, and so some of the topics always touch on that. We hope that you'll consider joining the NCDPI conference.
Also, we want to make you aware of a scholarship for your high school seniors. The Stuart Future Language Educator Scholarship is available through SCOLT. SCOLT is our regional organization, the Southern Conference on Language Teaching. It's like FLANC, but for the entire region of the Southeast. This scholarship was founded by Ken Stuart. We like to point that out not only because it's named for him, but also because he's a retired North Carolina Spanish teacher. He was a SCOLT board member, and he was the very first Teacher of the Year for ACTFL, the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages, in 2006. This scholarship is available to our high school seniors in any of the SCOLT region states that you see listed there on the screen, including North Carolina. They need to apply with their transcript of 3 letters of recommendation, a personal statement, and school and community involvement information, and a 3-minute video done in the intended language of study or teaching. We encourage all of you to think about which students you might have who would want that kind of opportunity, whether they would eventually teach, let's say, in a DLI program in our state, or in any kind of world language program, including an ESL program. So it spans the languages that we have, and we encourage you to share this information with your students. Also, going along with that, the SCOLT Annual Conference will be coming up in March. You see the dates on the screen. Because this is a regional conference, it moves around. This year it will be in Mobile, Alabama, and it features 50-minute sessions for K-20 language educators, as well as pre-conference workshops. There is also a DLI strand of sessions at the SCOLT conference, just like there is at the FLANC Fall Conference, and registration is now open, and you can see the rates of registration along with other conference details on the SCOLT conference website link there.
So, Ncbi, I don't know how we separated these. Ncbi, February 25th, is their pre-conference with the conference the 26th through the 28th. Again, this is in Las Vegas this year. So if you're familiar with Ncbi, the conference is all about dual language immersion, all about students and teachers and different resources that are available. So we do encourage you to take a look at that website and see in the program and see if this is something you would be interested in. TESOL International also has a bilingual, multilingual education strand. That's coming up March 31st through April 3rd, and that one will be in Denver, Colorado. So again, check out the link, look at the program, and you can see what is offered.
Finally, the last thing I want to share with you in the update is that we have recently published the new Dmi Discourse Magazine. This is from our NCDPI team here that works on DLI. You see here we've got several sections. There's a Voices from an Educator section, an article on standards, an article on instruction, a feature article, and then a letter from the editor and various news items. You see there on the link that you can see that as a booklet, almost like a page that page document you can turn. You may also have noticed that when we went over to the Resources tab, on the left-hand side, the Dmi Discourse Magazine was there. It is also available as a PDF, and here you see the table of contents from the first page, stipulating what those articles are for this particular magazine. This is done quarterly, so expect a new one in the winter, probably in late January or February sometime. And you can see what some of the articles are. The Voices from an Educator series focused on the blue Thomas and Collier book. That's what it refers to. Then we had a standards article from a DLI principal, Emily Bivens, an article on authentic assessments in the DLI classroom from 2 of our NCDPI DLI team members, which was a follow-up to the last webinar we had. We also had a feature article on the role of bilingualism in improving literacy achievement, and then a letter from the editor inviting people from across North Carolina to submit potential articles for our DLI Discourse Magazine. All right, that brings us to our last poll question. Which of these update items will you use or share before Friday? Maybe we should have said before
midnight tonight.
Midnight tonight, yeah, because everybody's going to go on Thanksgiving break. Let's just cut it down to which one of these update items will you use or share first? Which do you think? Now, you have the choice to choose more than one, and that's fine too. Go ahead and share with us which one you're going to share with a colleague, maybe investigate more yourself to learn more about it, maybe check some of those links.
So 50% of you have voted. Take about 15 more seconds. All right, we're going to close it. Maybe. Here we go.
All right. It looks like 50% of you said you're going to look at the regional and state conferences coming up, either the Flank Spring Conference or the Scope Conference, or it also looks like some of you are going to look at the national conferences, the NELPA, the Ncbi, and the TESOL. About 20% each of you said you're going to look at the Thompson Collier book study information in more detail, or the America's Language Caucus's information and the Scope Scholarship. And finally, 40% of you said you're going to look at the articles or information in the DLI Discourse. We encourage you to read that over the Thanksgiving holidays and into December. And again, we're always looking for information. You'll be getting details from us about how you can submit ideas, what you'd like to see in the DLI Discourse magazine or on the website, as well as if you'd like to submit an article yourself and become an author.
And just going back to the Thomas and Collier book studies, we did have a question about what if I have a conflict on Tuesday afternoons, will the book study be offered on different days of the week?
So typically, when we offer the book study as an instructor-led opportunity, we have to pick a time where we can get access to the broadcast like we're doing here. So we usually stick to whatever time we pick, and Tuesday afternoons has seemed to work out well. However, if you can't make it to a particular Tuesday synchronous session like we offer, there is a way to make up that assignment and that time by listening to a recording of our broadcast for the book study and looking at the slides and so forth. Much like you can do with the webinars, actually. But then for the book study, because you're earning a CEU, you can actually do a makeup assignment, post it in the Canvas course that we use for that.
And always a reminder that the books will eventually come out as a self-paced course, which you could then do as a PLC or do on your own at any time of the day or night. We have another question. I see that DLI programs use authentic assessments. Are they like actual OPI and WPT? If so, are the results available? If not, would you consider providing this information in the future?
That's a lot of questions. Let's parse that down. So if we could show the screen again, I'll go back to the actual table of contents for the DLI Discourse Magazine.
There we go.
All right, so you see the table of contents. So the Authentic Assessment DLI Classroom was an article written based on the September DLI quarterly update that was broadcast. And so it looked at authentic assessment across the board. It looked at some information about some of the vendor exams you talked about that are used to measure proficiency in the DLI program language. It also just talked about classroom assessment in a general way, not only, by the way, in language, whether it's the DLI program language or English, but also assessing what content students are learning. So it's sort of a broad base. The DLI Advisory Board is working to provide some information about assessments used in DLI programs. And in fact, we've had a number of presentations done about target language, DLI program language assessment, which kind of go along sometimes with our Seal of Biliteracy, the Global Languages Endorsement, but also go along with things like DLI program placement when students move on to middle school and high school. So there's a whole variety of things that are discussed in that, and we definitely will have additional information coming out about that. Right now we are discussing having a DLI discourse article and maybe publications other places about the assessment choices that have been made in the DLI programs in North Carolina and those outcomes. So, for example, looking at how students are performing in the DLI program language as compared to the proficiency-based outcomes in our state standards and where we think students need to be. And so there's a lot of things coming out about that, and we will try to keep that posted and updated. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you for the answer in detail. I look forward to the upcoming information. Thank you. And I see that we have gone just over by a few moments.
That's okay. We're at the end. The last thing we have to share with you is, of course, our NCDPI DLI team contacts and website. We've got the bit.ly link or the shortened URL posted at the top. There you see a picture of all of us together. If you have any questions for the DLI team and NCDPI, please contact one of us as co-leads, either myself, Anne-Marie Gunter, or my colleague here, Ivana Manthrow or Anderson. You see our emails there. That's the best way to get a hold of us. And as we said before, this information will be posted, these slides will be posted, so you'll have these links and so forth that you can get to quite easily. You probably also saw that this picture and our contact information is on the Contact Us portion of the DLI website, so that's another place you can get it when you need it. Any remaining questions or anything? All right, well, we thank you for joining us this afternoon on a Tuesday right before a major holiday. Please look for these materials to be posted within a week of this broadcast. And again, if you've been able to participate in the polls and everything, look for your email receipt for your participation today and your certificate to come to your email soon.
Thanks, everybody.